All right, let's jump right in. Tucked away in the book of Isaiah, there's this short 4-verse prophecy that feels more like an ancient riddle. It's this powerful message about warnings, escalating threats, and, in the end, a totally unshakable security. So today we're going to decode this prophecy, a message delivered to an ancient nation in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 29 through 32.
And here we go, verse 29. It kicks off with a warning, don't celebrate too soon. And then it dives into this incredible, almost mythical imagery of serpents. So what is this broken rod, and what in the world are a cockatrice and a fiery flying serpent? And maybe most importantly, who is this warning even for? This is the core mystery we're about to unravel together.
So to really get to the bottom of this, we've got a clear roadmap. First, we're going to figure out who Palestina is. Then we'll dive into that wild riddle of the serpents and check out the different ways scholars have tried to solve it. We'll also see how the prophecy predicts two totally different destinies. And finally, we'll uncover the ultimate answer that's found in Zion.
Okay, so first things first. The prophecy starts with, "Rejoice not, thou whole Palestina." To even begin to understand the message, we have to know who Isaiah is talking to. And you know what? The answer might not be what you're thinking.
Now, this is really important because historical context is everything here. Back in Isaiah's day, the word Palestina didn't mean the entire region we might think of today. Nope. It specifically meant Philistia, that coastal land of Israel's longtime enemies, the Philistines. The name itself even means something like land of strangers. It was way later, after 132 BC, that the Romans started using that name for the whole land of Canaan.
The verse warns them not to rejoice. So the obvious question is, what were they so happy about in the first place? Well, the text tells us it's because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. Basically, some powerful ruler who had been beating them down was gone, and the Philistines thought, yes, we're finally free. And this broken rod is a huge piece of the puzzle. Most commentators think it points to the death of a powerful king. One theory is that it was a king of Judah, maybe someone like Uzziah, who had really put the hurt on the Philistines. So his death would have been a massive reason to celebrate. Another idea is that the rod was actually an Assyrian king, Tiglath-Pileser. Either way, the Philistines saw this big enemy die and thought it was their big break. But Isaiah is here to tell them that their party is about to be cut short. Big time.
So, let's get to the heart of this riddle. Back in verse 29, the warning continues with this really vivid, frankly terrifying metaphor of these escalating snake-like threats. And this isn't just one bad guy being replaced by another. The prophecy is saying things are about to get progressively, and I mean way worse.
Isaiah lays it out in 3 terrifying stages. First, you have the serpent's root. That's the original threat. But out of that comes something far worse, a cockatrice. You can think of this as like a mythical, super venomous viper. And just when you think it can't get any worse, from that comes a fiery flying serpent, the most fearsome of them all. So you see the progression, right? It goes from bad to worse to an absolute catastrophe.
So who or what do these 3 serpents actually represent? This is where it gets super interesting, because biblical scholars have come up with a few really compelling theories. It's kind of like a historical whodunit, and the suspects are some of the biggest and baddest players of the ancient world.
And this table here lays out the main ideas perfectly. The first theory, you see it in the top row, says it's all about the kings of Judah. The first serpent was Uzziah. The more dangerous cockatrice was his descendant Hezekiah, and some see the fiery flying serpent as a prophecy of the Messiah. Then there's the second theory, pointing to a line of Assyrian kings, Tiglath-Pileser, followed by the even more destructive Sargon, and then the one who topped them all, Sennacherib. And a third view zooms out even further, seeing this as a prophecy of 3 successive world empires, each one worse than the last, Assyria, then Babylon, and finally Rome. But notice, they all follow that same pattern, escalating power and judgment.
All right, now let's move on to verse 30 and see how this all plays out. After laying out this coming disaster for Philistia, the prophecy just pivots and draws this incredibly sharp and dramatic contrast. It predicts 2 completely opposite futures for 2 different groups of people.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It is night and day. On one hand, for the poorest of God's people in Israel, there is this incredible promise of provision and security. They're going to feed and lie down in safety. But for Philistia, the prophecy is just total annihilation. God says, I will kill thy root with famine, just complete destruction from the ground up, and he, who is probably the Assyrian conqueror, shall slay thy remnant. There will be absolutely nothing left. It's a 2-pronged attack, famine from God and the sword from man.
And that brings us to the grand finale of the riddle, in verses 31 and 32. After all the warnings and these clashing fates, the prophecy delivers its final ultimate message. This is the answer to the whole crisis, the real source of security in a world where everything else is falling apart.
Verse 31 is just chilling. It says, "Howl, O gate, cry, O city, thou whole Palestina art dissolved." And why? "For there shall come from the north a smoke." This smoke from the north is this powerful symbol of the invading Assyrian army, just sweeping down on Philistia, burning and destroying everything in its path. It means a force that is overwhelming and completely unstoppable.
So, what exactly is this smoke? Well, scholars see it a few different ways, but they all point to the same grim reality. It could be the literal smoke coming from the cities and villages the Assyrians were burning as they advanced. It could be the torch signals their armies used to coordinate their attacks at night. Or the smoke could be a metaphor for the massive Assyrian army itself, this huge, dust-kicking cloud of destruction just rolling over the land.
And all of this leads to the final and maybe the most important question posed in verse 32. In the middle of all this chaos, with Philistia collapsing and its messengers running around desperately trying to make alliances, what is the right response? What is the one true answer to give when your world is falling apart?
And here's the answer. It's not a military plan. It's not a new political alliance. The answer you give to the messengers of a dying nation is a statement of faith, that the Lord hath founded Zion. While Philistia's foundations are literally going up in smoke, Zion's foundation is God himself. And because of that, the poor, the vulnerable, the needy of his people, they have a safe place. Their trust isn't in kings who die or armies that fail, but in the city that God himself established. And so this riddle, which started with a warning against false hope, ends with a declaration of the only true security. It leaves us with this question that still echoes today, doesn't it? In a world of broken rods and escalating threats, where are we placing our ultimate trust?